Hi, this is Mrs. Naslund, and today we are talking about how to compare and order decimals to the thousandths place. Um, we're going to start by looking at this number line to compare and order decimals. The first question says, label points on the number line above to show 9 hundredths, 23 hundredths, and 17 hundredths. So let's just take a look at this number line. We might use some different colors here today to help us. Let's take a look, and it first wants us to find where 9 hundredths is. So I look here and I see this is 1/10. If I want to be smaller at 9 hundredths, I'm going to have to look before this 1/10. So if I zoom in really close to this, I can see that there are 10 little lines. So in order to get to the 9 hundredths, I'm going to have to go over 9 lines. So I'm going to pick a color here. We'll do red. I'm going to make this one red. We're going to go over 9 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 right here. And that would be my 9 hundredth spot. All right. Then it says I need to do 23 hundredths. Well, I know that 23 hundredths is going to be somewhere between the 2 here and the 3, because I see there's a 2 here. So, and I know that the 3 hundredths means I have to go over 3 spots. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So my 23 hundredths is right there. And then lastly, I have 17 hundredths. So I'm going to pick a different color altogether here. Let's do like a purplish pink. 17 hundredths. And I see there's a 1, so I know my 1/10 is going to be between here and here. Oh, and this tells me it's 15, so 16, 17. 17 hundredths would be right here. So I've labeled my points, and then it says write the numbers in exercise 1 in order from least to greatest. Well, I know that this side is the smallest and this side is the largest of my number line. So my smallest number was the 9 hundredths, 0.09. And then my next smallest number was my purple one, which was 17 hundredths, 17 hundredths. And then my largest of my decimals was my 23 hundredths right here. All right, good. Then it says, how could you use the number line to compare 59 hundredths and 83 hundredths? Well, I could find both of them on the number line, and I could use that to help me compare which one's bigger and which one's smaller, right? So if I look here, I know that I find the 5, and then it says go over 9 spots. So that's going to be right about here. And then 83 hundredths, I know that it has at least 8 tens. And then I have to go over 3 spots. 1, 2, 3, 83 hundredths. So if I had to compare these numbers, I would see that 83 hundredths is greater than 59 hundredths. So if I was going to actually write that out, 59 hundredths is less than 83 hundredths. All right. And then it wants us on these next questions here. I'm going to erase all my dots in my line. On the next questions here, it says order the decimals from least to greatest. They want us to use this number line. Now, soon I'm going to show you another way that you could do this, but I'm going to use my number line. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark out all these points. So they said 5 tenths. 5 tenths is right there. 2 tenths is right here. And 1/10 is right here. So then they want me to write them from least to greatest. Well, my smallest one would be 1/10. The next smallest one would be the 2 tenths. And then my greatest would be my 5 tenths. So you can see that you can easily plot points on your number lines and use them to compare them or to order them from smallest to greatest. Now on this next page, they're showing us another way that we can compare decimals. It says, you can use your understanding of place value and the placement of zeros in the decimal number to compare and order decimals. It says, which of these numbers is the greatest? And it has 35 hundredths, 318 thousandths, or 4 tenths. So I want you to notice what they did here. They took each number and they wrote them out. They lined up the zeros and they lined up the decimal point. That's the most important. They lined up the decimal point. And then they wrote each number. So they wrote 35 hundredths, they wrote 35 tenths, 318 hundredths, and 4 tenths. And then what they did is they added zeros so that they all would align together. And the reason they did this is so that we could figure out what is the biggest fraction. So we always start over here. We look at our ones first, they're all zeros. So then we move over to the tens. When I look here, I've got 2 threes, they're the same, but 4 is bigger than 3. So 4 tenths is actually bigger than 318 hundredths. This is really important because this could be a really long fraction, a really long decimal, but if my tenths value is smaller, it isn't as big. So this 4 tenths is bigger. So I can use that to compare multiple decimals. So let's try a couple of these. We're going to start with this one here. And I'm going to rewrite my decimals, but I'm going to write them right above each other. And again, the trick is to make sure that the decimal aligns with each other. So I've got 36 hundredths and I have 82 hundredths. So I write them like this. And then I start over in my ones place and I say, nope, they're the same. So then I move over to my tenths place, and I see, oh, 3 is smaller than 8. So the bigger fraction is the 82 tenths. Let's try this one. This is a little different because one fraction looks longer than the other one. But let's go ahead and rewrite these really quick. When I rewrite them, what you're going to see is that even though it is longer, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is greater. And that's a very common mistake that kids make when they're comparing decimals. So I rewrite it, and you'll see that I have no number here. And when this happens, I go ahead and I add a 0. You can add zeros, as many zeros as you want on the back of decimals, and it doesn't change its value, okay? So I rewrote it, and now I go ahead and start my ones place again. Both are the same. So I go over one. Tens place. Look, this 6 is greater than 4. So 62 tenths is greater than 405 hundredths. Okay? So again, really important takeaway. Make sure you line up your decimals and then you add zeros in order to make them all line up so you can compare your numbers. So that concludes our lesson today. Thanks for watching.